Is a helical cutter head really that much better than a straight knife cutter? And what potential problems and considerations do you need to take into account before you decide to pull the trigger? Hi, this is Damien from Southpaw Designs. And if you've been watching this channel for very long, you've probably seen the review of my DeWalt 735 thickness planer. And I decided to make the upgrade that you have been recommending that I make. I'm upgrading from a straight knife cutter head to a helical cutter head by Find Buy Tool. As you can see, I'm in the process of swapping these two out, so I've got parts all over the place. But before I reassembled and installed this helical head, I wanted to take a little time and show you the differences between the two. If you're interested in checking out this particular brand and model, I do have a couple links down in the description, so please feel free to check them out. Now, this is not a commercial for Find Buy Tool. This is simply a review of my upgrade experience. I'm going to tell you what problems I ran into and what my real opinion is concerning the differences and advantages of a helical head over a straight knife head. So to begin with, a straight knife cutter head has 3 blades that, at least in this case, are held on with 8 bolts, whereas the helical cutter head has 14 different blades in 4 different rows, so a total of 56 small blades that are attached in a helical type of a pattern. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a straight knife blade. I've been using a straight knife blade for the past couple of years with my planer, and I've had no problems with that. However, a helical head is supposed to be better because with a straight knife blade, you have the entire blade slapping your wood over and over and over and over again. Whereas with a helical head, you have all of these small blades that are hitting it in succession. So it's supposed to be quieter, it's supposed to give you a better finish, and it's supposed to give a much better result. Also, one nice thing about the helical head over a straight knife head is that you have 56 different blades. And when one of these blades gets dull or damaged, you can simply unscrew it and rotate it 90 degrees. So there are actually 4 blades in one. Now, spiral head blades do have 2 sides. So if this side gets dull, you can remove it and spin it around and you've got a brand new blade, but you actually have 4 with the helical head. And this is what the replacement blades actually look like. They typically come in this type of a package, and there you go. You will notice that they do have 4 sharp sides that are numbered so you can keep track of them. So I did get the installation completed. I have tested it out and everything's running just fine. I'm not going to give you a step-by-step installation guide because I fumbled through it myself. I had to watch a couple of other YouTube videos, but I will put a link to those videos down in the description because those guys do a much better job of it than I do. Now, what I do want to do is tell you a few things to keep in mind before you start trying to make this upgrade yourself. First of all, don't rush it. Make sure that you have time to get it done. Give yourself at least 2 hours, possibly longer, because the last thing that you want to do is rush through it and end up missing a step and damaging either your brand new expensive helical head or your planer altogether. Next, make sure that you have a clean area to keep all of the parts and keep them organized. There are a lot of small pieces like snap rings and screws that you're going to need to keep track of, and you don't want to get them confused. So make sure that you have a clean work surface and you organize everything as you're taking it apart so it's easier to put it back together. Next, this is a simple, dumb mistake that didn't hurt anything, but it's something that you don't want to do. I made the mistake of putting the blades on one night while I was watching TV. Don't do that. Because when you're installing the helical head, the opening that you slide it into is very small, just big enough to fit the head itself. And if you already have blades on there, it won't fit. So what did I have to do? After I'd already installed 56 blades, I had to uninstall and then reinstall 56 blades. There are bigger problems in the world, but it was an annoyance. And finally, make sure that you clean out your planer very well. When you're installing the blades, you want to make sure that there's no sawdust or debris that gets underneath the blade, because if any one of those blades doesn't seat correctly, it can cause marks in your work that are going to appear until you're able to figure out which blade has been seated incorrectly. Next, let's look at a few tools that you are going to need that you may or may not already have in your shop. Now, you are going to need some tools, so I strongly recommend that you have all this before you get started. Otherwise, it's going to be frustrating because you're going to have to dig around and find this stuff when you need it. Number one, you're going to need the wrench that probably came with your planer. If you have a DeWalt 735 like I do, this is in the top of the planer is where it stays. Next, you're going to need a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver. You're also going to need a 23 millimeter socket. Now, I didn't have 23 millimeters, so 15/16 worked well. Also, I recommend the extension. It makes it a little bit easier. You will need a number 4 and number 5 Allen wrench. You'll need this T25 bit or wrench. This actually came with the helical head, so I didn't have to buy this. You're going to need a rubber mallet or some sort of mallet because your old head has a hard time coming out and you're going to have to really kind of beat it out. And the new head, you have to beat it back in there. And you're going to need some snap ring pliers. I strongly recommend that you get both of these styles because some of those snap rings are going to be on the outside while others are going to be on the inside. So with a couple of those snap rings, you're going to have to expand the ring. And then with others, you're going to have to contract the ring. So having both of those styles of snap ring pliers are very handy. Now, I did find these on Amazon and I will leave a link down in the description. The ones that I bought actually come with 4 different styles and they were very affordable. So strongly recommend those. All right, now that we've got it all back together, let's plug it up, run a few test cuts, and see how it performs. Now, if the reviews are true, there should be a reduction in noise as well as a higher quality result in terms of the smoothness of the wood. Now, I've never had any complaints about the quality of the cut that my straight knife actually gives. But let's see if I've been missing out the whole time. So now let's fire it up and see if we can notice a difference in the noise level using our helical head. I don't have a decibel meter, so this is not going to be incredibly scientific, but let's just see how it performs. And the reviews that I have watched, most people who did use the decimal meter said that there was a decrease of about 8 to 10 decibels from the straight knives to the helical head. Okay, so I've got it set. I'm going to turn it on here in just a second, and it is going to be loud, so just keep that in mind with your volume. Okay, so how was the noise? It was different. I noticed a different type of a noise. It was still pretty loud. So you're still going to want to wear hearing protection because even though it probably is a little bit quieter, not enough to really make that big of a difference or being a selling point. Now, let's take a look at the quality of the actual cut and how smooth we got, because supposedly that is another selling point of a helical cutter. All right, so you're just going to have to take my word for it on this one because obviously you can't feel it through the TV or computer. But this does give a very incredibly smooth finish. It feels like it's already been sanded and finished up to probably about a 220 grit. Now, I do notice a little bit of snipe right here, so I can't imagine that a helical head would do anything to reduce the amount of snipe. Snipe is just from time to time inherent in using a planer. But the quality of the finish is awesome. I really do love it. Now, here's one thing that I do want you to see because I didn't anticipate this, but this is interesting. With my straight knife cutter head, the sawdust tended to come out almost in like little straws or very stringy. They were sometimes very long, and my planer would get clogged up fairly often. But if you look at the sawdust produced here, it's very, very fine chips. And I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder if this would do a better job of preventing my planer from getting clogged up from time to time. I would assume that it probably would, simply because that finer dust is less likely to get clumped up together. But I don't know for a fact, but that is a very interesting thing that I've noticed. So now the question is it worth it? Now, this particular helical cutter head by Find Buy Tool is $329. You can find more expensive versions out there for $450 to $500. But is it really worth it to add that much cost onto your planer? And that really depends on you. I did see a lot of improvements with this helical head. Number one, it is slightly quieter. Number two, the sound that was made was a very different sound. Number three, as you just saw, the sawdust that was produced is a much finer sawdust, which I think would lead to less clogging in my planer. And the results speak for themselves. This is a great finish pass, even better than I did get from the straight knives. And what about cost savings? You're going to spend $300 plus buying a helical cutter head. However, those carbide inserts are supposed to last 40 times longer. And when you need to replace those inserts, you only need to replace the ones that get chipped or dulled, which might not be all of them. Now, the cost of a set of replacement straight blades is about $27 to $28, whereas the cost to replace all 56 of those carbide insert blades is going to be considerably more. But if they do truly last 40 times as long and you only need to replace them individually when they get dull or when they get chipped, then there could be a significant cost savings there. That's really a math problem that you need to do. Hey, I appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video. If you feel that I've earned it, I would love it if you'd hit that subscribe button down below. And since you're still here, make sure to check out this video, which is that review of my DeWalt 735. It's one of my most popular videos ever.